So Emma, can you tell me how you first discovered meta-ethnography?
I was part of a team that was carrying out a meta-ethnography on the experience of having head and neck cancer. Colleagues invited me to take part in updating one, and that was the first time I had heard anything in depth about meta-ethnography.
You've been a big part of this eMERGe project. Can you tell me a bit about what that's about?
It first came about over coffee, actually, as all good academic projects do. I was talking to my colleague Nicola Ring about areas of common interest that we had at work, and meta-ethnography came up as one that we were both interested in. And Nicola was aware through work that she had done it was being carried out poorly in some cases, and as we started to investigate and read more published meta-ethnographies, we realised that we couldn't really always tell how rigorously they'd been conducted because the reporting wasn't complete enough and didn't give us enough information to be able to make those judgments about quality of conduct.
So who was all involved in the project then?
The focus of the project became about reporting meta-ethnographies and improving the quality of reporting. And we pulled together a team who we felt had the necessary skills and experiences to produce reporting guidance. So myself, leading with my colleague Nicola Ring and Ruth Jepson, Professor Jane Noyes from Bangor University, Ruth Turley from Cardiff, who's an information scientist, Eddie Duncan from Stirling, who specialises in using the Delphi consensus study.
So there's quite a few academics on board then.
That's right, yeah.
Was there any other kinds of people involved in the project?
We wanted to make sure that whatever guidance we produced was useful and usable to a wide range of users, not just academics who are really the main audience, but people who would be affected perhaps by what it could achieve. So lay people, patients, people working in non-academic organisations who are professionals who use different kinds of knowledge and evidence in their work.
And what was their role then?
They took part in an advisory group where they scrutinised what we were doing, helped us problem solve if we came across difficulties, gave their experiences and expertise. So there were also academic experts in that advisory group. They also took part in a consensus study where we got people to agree on the content of the guidelines.
And you said the focus of the study was looking at the reporting of meta-ethnography.
Yes, that's right. So the importance of reporting clearly, transparently, completely, is so that the reader, the end user of that piece of research, that study, can judge how well the study was conducted, how much confidence that they might want to place in the findings, and then be able to use the information from a meta-ethnography. More recently, high quality, well-reported meta-ethnographies have actually been influential and have been included in clinical guidelines, for example, a NICE clinical guideline on medication adherence, and more recently a World Health Organization guideline on antenatal care.
So it can have quite a strong impact.
Absolutely.
Then. The project ran for 2 years. What were the main stages over that time?
We had a mixed methods approach to the research, and we followed good practice guidance in producing a reporting guideline for health research. The first stage was to carry out a systematic review of what methodological literature existed on meta-ethnography. And the second stage was to carry out an audit of published meta-ethnographies to see how they'd been reported and whether or not they had met the recommendations that we'd identified from the first literature review of methodological guidance. So we're looking for best practice, methodological recommendations, looked in published meta-ethnographies to see how they had reported and whether they'd met these good practice examples and recommendations. And then we carried out a workshop with experts in meta-ethnography and other types of qualitative evidence synthesis.
Right.
And consensus studies with not just academic experts, but a wide range of potential users of the guideline or who might benefit from use of the guideline, including lay people, professionals working in non-academic contexts who use knowledge and evidence in their work.
And were they involved throughout the 2 years, Emma?
Yes, that's right. One of the things that's unique about this project is that we have heavily involved lay people and people who are not working as academics. And we couldn't have done the project without our advisory group. They were very important.
Why were they so important?
If you produce a reporting guideline and it's just the view of a small team who's producing it, you risk biasing it towards the preferences of that small team, and you need a much wider expertise to produce a guideline that represents the wider view of those people that use it. or will benefit from it.
I would have assumed that most lay people wouldn't know what a meta-ethnography was. Do you know, how would they come about that knowledge?
Well, we produced materials to recruit lay people to the project where we explained what a meta-ethnography was. We explained how it could be used or what impact it might have, and on that basis we were very successful in attracting some wonderful lay people to the project who really contributed excellently to the process.
What do you see the impact of the eMERGe guidances being?
The main impact of the guidance is to improve the quality or the completeness and clarity of reporting of meta-ethnographies, but it could also affect the quality of conduct of meta-ethnography if people are using it to help them plan, design and carry out meta-ethnographies. The longer term indirect impact is that we hope that qualitative evidence will be more often included in developing healthcare services, interventions and programmes, for example by being included in clinical guidelines where appropriate and then influencing healthcare in that way.
Because there's been a huge increase, hasn't there, in people using meta-ethnography?
Yeah, that's right. So the Little Blue Book, or Wee Blue Book as we might call it in Scotland, that was written by Professor George Noblet and his colleague Dwight Hare, was one of our main reference points. They are the originators of meta-ethnography, and we were very lucky that Professor George Noblet agreed to be one of the advisors on our study. So he came over to visit us in Scotland from the United States. He looked at drafts of our guidance. We talked to him in detail about the whole methodology, the approach, and he basically ratified what we were doing and gave his expertise and time to us. He wrote that book back in 1988 and he thought it would just get dusty on a shelf, that nobody would ever use it. And we're now decades later and it's being taken up and used in healthcare, and he is very pleased that we're using that and finding it an approach that works well for synthesising qualitative research.
Organising and planning a project involving such a wide range of people, from academics to journal editors, lay people, practitioners, and both on an international and local context, must have been no mean feat. What were the main challenges that you came across?
One of the main challenges at the outset of the project was that meta-ethnography is still evolving, and there are lots of areas of uncertainty about the right way or how to do certain parts of carrying out a meta-ethnography. And so we had to keep our minds really open to different approaches. It's not just used in healthcare research, it has its roots in education, so people in education are using meta-ethnography. It's also used by people in other academic disciplines, and they might be using it slightly differently. So we had to keep an open mind to different approaches and different ways of using meta-ethnography, and also to be aware that there might be not one single right way of doing a meta-ethnography, there might be multiple different ways. So we had to make sure that we weren't being too prescriptive in what we were doing, and we weren't closing down ideas too quickly or closing them down at all. We wanted to make sure we took on the views of such a wide range of people that, although you might think it's extremely challenging working with a big group of people, actually there were so many advantages. The people who took part were extremely professional, hard-working, very generous with their time, and it gave us a much wider view than we would have had as a small research team carrying out a project on our own.
And I'm thinking about, meta-ethnography being a lot to do with interpretation. I'm wondering if that was something that you felt that you were doing along the way, was interpreting the meta-ethnographic method.
We were pulling together information, research evidence from a wide range of different sources, and so yes, it's definitely an element of having to interpret that and make sense of what's happening, absolutely. One of the things we don't want to do, and we never wanted to do in producing reporting guidance, was to stifle creativity in the way that meta-ethnography is growing, evolving, advancing. Because methodologies don't just stand still, they do evolve and grow, and it's important that a reporting guideline or guidance doesn't stop that from happening. The methodology is a tool to achieve something. You're trying to answer a research question, and so it's just the tool to get you the answer to your question. It's not the be-all and end-all of the project.
The guidance is about to be published. What next for the eMERGe project?
There are a number of different publications that come out of the project. So there's the actual reporting guidance, which will be published this year. There's also a report for our funder, the National Institute of Health Research, as part of their Health and Services Delivery Research Programme. There will be other publications as well from the project, and we'd like to continue working with the team to evaluate how the reporting guidance is being used, whether it is actually having an impact, how much impact it's having on the quality of reporting of meta-ethnographies. And we also welcome feedback on the guidance from people who are using it.
Thank you.